Liam Reynolds was not someone you would expect to do something foolish. He was smart, calm, and disciplined. At 27 years old, he had spent more than 10 years learning martial arts. He had a third-degree black belt in Taekwondo. People respected him at his local martial arts school in Birmingham. They said he moved like water, fast, smooth, and strong. He never fought outside the ring, never lost his temper, and never made silly mistakes. But everyone has a moment when they forget who they are. That moment came for Liam on a cloudy Saturday afternoon in London. It started like a regular trip. Liam and three of his old school friends, Josh, Aaron, and Malik, decided to spend a weekend in London. It was meant to be a break from their busy lives. Liam had just finished teaching a week-long martial arts camp for kids. Josh worked in IT, Aaron was a nurse, and Malik was starting his photography business. They wanted to enjoy the city, take photos, eat street food, and maybe visit a museum or two. On the second day of their trip, they ended up near Buckingham Palace. It was Josh's idea. "Let's go see the Queen's Guards," he said excitedly. "You know, the ones who don't move no matter what you do." Liam smiled. "I've seen them on TV," he said. "They look like statues." The group laughed and walked through the busy streets. Tourists were everywhere, families taking selfies, kids holding small British flags, people with maps in their hands, looking around like they were lost and amazed at the same time. When they reached the front of the palace, the famous guards were already standing at their posts. Dressed in red jackets and tall black hats, they stood completely still, holding their rifles. Their eyes didn't blink, and their faces showed no emotion. "Look at them," Malik whispered, snapping photos. "It's like they're robots." Aaron laughed. "They're trained not to react at all, no matter what." Josh pulled out his phone and started recording a short video. "Watch me try to make him laugh," he said, walking near one of the guards and making silly faces. Liam stood back and watched. He didn't like the idea. He had learned all his life that respect comes first, especially for people in uniform. "Guys, maybe don't mess with them," Liam said calmly. "They're not here to entertain us." "Oh, come on, man," Josh replied. "It's just a bit of fun. Look, everyone's doing it." Josh pointed at other tourists who were posing close to the guards, some even making mock salute gestures. Aaron joined in, pretending to dance next to another guard. Malik laughed loudly and filmed everything. The energy in the group was wild and silly. Liam stayed at a distance, arms crossed, looking uncomfortable. Then, something happened that changed everything. "Hey, Liam," Josh shouted. "You've got a black belt, right? Show us one of your fancy kicks. Come on, do it for the video." Liam raised his eyebrows. "Here? Are you serious?" "Just a fake one," Josh said, holding up his phone. "Like, just a cool air kick near the guard. Not touching, obviously." "Just for laughs," Aaron jumped in. "Bro, this is gonna go viral. Black belt faces the Queen's Guard. We'll be famous," Malik added. "Do it, man. Just one kick. You don't even have to touch him." Liam shook his head. "It's not right. They're not here to be part of jokes. But peer pressure is a strange thing. Even the strongest people can feel it." "Come on," Josh pushed. "One clean kick. You're a master, right? You've got control." That last word, control, stuck in Liam's mind. It was true. He had perfect control. He could break a board with a kick and stop the motion a centimeter before hitting a face. He had done it hundreds of times in demos. So what was the harm in doing it again? Just one kick. No touch. Just air. He walked forward. His heart was beating fast now, not because of fear, but because he knew he was stepping out of line. Something inside told him, "Don't do this," but another voice said, "It's just for fun. You won't hurt anyone." Liam stood about 6 feet in front of the nearest guard. Tourists were already watching. Some took out their phones. Josh started recording. Liam gave a small bow, not to the guard, but more out of habit. His martial arts mind couldn't stop being polite, even in this strange moment. Then, in one smooth motion, he moved into a taekwondo stance. His foot rose high into the air, as light and sharp as a blade. But something went wrong. The kick was too close. Maybe the wind shifted. Maybe he leaned in without realizing. Maybe his control wasn't as perfect as he thought in that moment of performance. His foot lightly brushed the guard's chin. Just a tap. Nothing that would leave a mark, but it was enough. Gasps filled the air. Josh lowered his phone, mouth open. Aaron stepped back. Malik stopped laughing. A few people nearby whispered loudly, "He touched the guard." The royal guard didn't flinch. For a second. Then he moved, and that single movement was like an alarm going off. The guard stepped forward and shouted with military force, "Step back!" Liam froze. He had never seen a guard break posture before. The calm, cold mask was gone. Now the man in red looked like a soldier, angry, alert, and ready for action. Another guard rushed in from the side. Within seconds, Liam was grabbed by the arms and pulled to the ground. His face hit the cold stone pavement. A knee pressed into his back. "Hands behind your head," someone ordered. "I wasn't trying to hurt anyone," Liam said quickly. "It was just a, don't move," another voice snapped. People all around were recording with their phones now. Some shouted, some stood silent. Tourists moved, back as more guards and officers appeared. Within a minute, 2 armed police officers arrived and pulled Liam to his feet, still holding him tightly. They checked his ID. He didn't resist. He just kept saying, "It was a mistake. I didn't mean to hit him." The police didn't answer. They placed handcuffs on his wrists and led him away. Josh, Aaron, and Malik didn't say a word. They just watched their friend being taken away. Liam didn't speak again until he was inside the back of the police van. That's when it truly hit him. "What have I done?" The van drove away. His heart sank. For the first time in years, Liam felt like a beginner again, scared, lost, and unsure of what would come next. He thought of his students back at the dojo. He thought of his old teacher, Master Jin, who used to say, "A true black belt controls not just his body, but his choices." Liam had made the wrong choice, and now he would have to face the consequences. Liam sat silently in the back of the police van. His hands were cuffed behind his back. The cold metal pressed against his wrists, and the weight of what had just happened started to sink into his mind. His heartbeat was loud in his ears. He tried to think clearly, but everything inside him felt mixed up. Shock, shame, confusion, fear. Just a few minutes ago, he had been standing in front of Buckingham Palace with his friends, laughing and joking, and now he was being taken away like a criminal. All because of one small kick, one tiny mistake. But it wasn't just a mistake. Deep down, Liam knew it. He had crossed a line he had promised never to cross. All his life, he had trained in martial arts. Since he was a teenager, he had learned about discipline, respect, and control. His teachers had always told him, "Your skills are not for show. They are not for power. They are for peace." And yet in that one moment of pressure, because of his friends, because of the crowd, because of a camera, he had forgotten all of that. The van stopped. The door opened, and 2 officers led him out. He was taken through a side entrance of a police station, away from the public eye. Everything felt unreal. His legs were shaking, not because he was afraid of the police, but because he was afraid of what would come next. Inside he was searched, then placed in a small empty room with gray walls and a metal chair. There was a camera in the corner of the room. A light buzzed softly above him. No one spoke to him for almost half an hour. He sat alone, staring at the floor, replaying the moment again and again in his mind. The door finally opened. A man in uniform entered, followed by another man in a suit. The man in the suit introduced himself. "I'm Detective Inspector Clark. This is Officer Patel. You're Mr. Liam Reynolds, correct?" Liam nodded. "Do you know why you're here?" "I kicked near the guard. I didn't mean to hit him. It was supposed to be a demonstration. I'm a martial artist. It was a controlled—" Detective Clark raised a hand to stop him. "Save it. You'll have a chance to explain everything. But first you need to understand the seriousness of what you've done." Liam looked up, unsure. "I didn't hurt him." "That doesn't matter," Officer Patel said. "You assaulted a royal guard on protected grounds. Do you understand what that means?" Liam's mouth felt dry. "But it wasn't violent. It was just a soft touch. An accident." "You don't touch the guards. Ever," Clark said sharply. "They are part of the official royal security structure. They are not actors. They are not part of a show. They are trained soldiers." Liam looked down, ashamed. He knew they were right. "You'll be held here until further decisions are made. You're not under full arrest yet, but that may change depending on the investigation," Patel continued. Liam spent the next few hours in a holding cell. It wasn't a prison, but it felt just as heavy. The walls were the same dull color. The air smelled of disinfectant and old sweat. There was no clock, but it felt like time had stopped completely. He had no phone, no way to contact anyone. Just his own thoughts. His mind wandered to his students back at the dojo, young boys and girls who looked up to him. He thought of their faces, their laughter during training, the way they clapped when he showed them a cool technique. What would they think now? A few hours later, he was taken out and told someone from the embassy would speak to him. Since Liam had dual citizenship, his mother was Canadian, the embassy offered some basic support. They didn't promise much, just a calm voice and a suggestion to contact a lawyer. By that evening, the story had already spread. Josh, who had been recording the kick, didn't upload the video, but someone else in the crowd had. A tourist had filmed the whole thing and posted it online. Within hours, it was all over social media. Black belt tourist kicks Queen's Guard, gets taken down instantly. The video had over 200,000 views by midnight. In the clip, Liam looked like a fool. The camera had caught the exact moment his foot brushed the guard's face, followed by the loud order to step back and the quick takedown. People in the comments were laughing, making memes, calling him names. Others were angry, disrespectful. "Arrest him! Throw him in jail!" Liam's friends were shocked. Josh messaged him saying, "I'm so sorry. I didn't think it would go this far." Malik posted a story saying, "We messed up. Bad." The next morning, Liam was released on temporary bail. But his passport was taken. He was not allowed to leave London. His court hearing was set for 2 weeks later. He was warned not to go near any royal buildings or landmarks. He walked out of the police station feeling like a different person. The streets of London didn't feel exciting anymore. They felt cold, heavy, and distant. People were still moving, around, laughing, taking pictures. But to Liam, the world had turned gray. He stayed at a cheap hotel nearby, trying to stay quiet, away from attention. But the news didn't stop. Local media picked up the story. Martial arts instructor kicks guard, claims it was just a demonstration. Taekwondo black belt, under investigation for assault on palace grounds. Soon, his martial arts school back in Birmingham found out. His assistant instructor called him and said the board had suspended him until further notice. Sponsors pulled out from an upcoming martial arts seminar he was supposed to lead. One of the national sports magazines even dropped a planned feature about him. In just 24 hours, his reputation was broken. He felt embarrassed. He didn't want to go online. He didn't want to call his family. He didn't even want to look at himself in the mirror. The worst part was knowing this was all his own doing. He couldn't blame anyone else. Not really. His friends had pushed him, yes, but he had made the choice. He had lifted his leg. He had performed the kick. For the next few days, He avoided going out. He bought food from a small grocery store nearby and stayed inside, trying to read, trying to sleep, but mostly just lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the guard's face. Not angry, not surprised, just doing his job. And he had broken that invisible wall of respect. 2 weeks passed slowly. When his court date finally arrived, Liam wore a plain suit. He looked neat, quiet, and serious. His lawyer, provided through a legal aid service, was calm and professional. The courtroom wasn't large, but it felt bigger than any stadium he had ever stood in. The judge asked questions. Liam explained what happened. He didn't deny anything. He admitted that it was a moment of bad judgment, that he had never meant to harm anyone, that he had lost control for 1 second. He spoke softly without excuse, but also without trying to look like a victim. The judge listened carefully. The prosecutor presented the video. There was no need for long arguments. The evidence was clear. In the end, the judge gave his decision. Liam would not go to jail. There was no serious injury, no intent to harm. But the action was still serious. He was given a fine of $10,000. His name was added to a public misconduct record. He would be banned from all royal and government zones for 2 years, and he would carry a criminal record. It could have been worse, much worse. But for Liam, it already felt like too much. As he walked out of the courtroom, his heart was heavy. He had trained his body for 10 years, but this was the first time in his life he realized that training the mind was something even harder. On the way back to the hotel, he walked past a group of tourists. One of them, a teenager, looked at him and whispered, "That's the guy who kicked the guard." Liam lowered his head and kept walking. He didn't feel like a black belt anymore. He didn't feel like a teacher or a leader. He felt like a man who had disappointed everyone, including himself. And for the first time in a long time, Liam Reynolds didn't know who he was anymore. Liam Reynolds sat alone on the edge of his hotel bed. The room was quiet, but his mind was loud. He could still hear the judge's voice from the courtroom 2 days ago. He could still feel the shame in his chest, like a heavy stone sitting on his heart. He had made a mistake. Everyone knew it. He had accepted the punishment. But what he hadn't expected was how long the pain would last. Not physical pain, but something worse. Disappointment in himself. His life had changed in a single moment, one kick, one choice. That was all it took. He had lost the respect of his students. He had lost the trust of his martial arts community. Some people still supported him quietly, sending him kind messages. But many were angry. Some had called him a disgrace online. Others called him immature, unworthy, and fake. Back in Birmingham, his dojo remained closed. His assistant instructor had told him gently that the board was reviewing his position. Liam knew what that meant. They didn't want him back, not yet. Maybe not ever. He stared at his phone. Dozens of missed messages. His parents had called 5 times. His sister had texted, "Please talk to me." But he couldn't. Not yet. He didn't know what to say. What do you say when you've embarrassed everyone who believed in you? The days dragged on. Each morning he woke up early, like he used to for training, but now there was no reason. He didn't have a class to teach, no students to guide, no tournaments to plan. He would go for a short walk, buy coffee, come back to the hotel room, and sit in silence for hours. One afternoon, he took a longer walk, hoping to clear his mind. He avoided the popular tourist spots and wandered into quieter neighborhoods. He walked past small parks, bookshops, old cafes. It was peaceful, but it didn't heal anything. As he passed a street near South Bank, he noticed a small martial arts studio tucked between 2 buildings. There was a faded sign, "Spirit and Motion, Traditional Martial Arts." The windows were dusty, and a handwritten paper on the door read, "Open, Beginners Welcome." Without thinking, he stepped inside. The studio was small and warm. The floor was covered with soft mats. On the walls hung photographs, old black and white pictures of martial artists from decades ago. There was a smell of old wood and sweat, the kind of smell that brought back memories of his early training days. A woman in her 50s greeted him. She wore a simple white jai with a blue belt. Her hair was tied back, and her eyes looked kind. "Looking for a class?" she asked. Liam hesitated. "Just looking around," she smiled. "You're welcome to watch. We're just starting." Liam sat at the edge of the mat as 5 children and 3 adults bowed and began warm-up exercises. The movements were slow and traditional, nothing flashy, no jumping kicks or fancy spins, just controlled breathing, stretching, and simple stances. As he watched, something stirred inside him. It wasn't excitement. It was something deeper, like remembering a part of himself he had forgotten. After the class, the woman offered him tea. "You used to train?" she asked, handing him a warm cup. "Yes," Liam replied quietly. "For many years." "You're good," she said. "I can see it in how you watch. You understand." He looked at her, surprised. "I'm not sure I understand much anymore." She nodded slowly, as if she knew there was more behind his words. "Everyone gets lost sometimes. Even black belts. Especially black belts." They spoke for a while. Liam didn't say who he was. He didn't mention the kick, the court case, or the video. He just said he had made a mistake and didn't know how to come back from it. The woman, her name was Ayaka, didn't press him. She simply listened. Then she invited him to come back the next day. "You don't have to join. Just come and sit. Let your spirit rest." That night, Liam slept better than he had in weeks. Over the next few days, he returned to the little dojo. He didn't train. He just watched. The students were all beginners, children learning how to stand properly, teenagers learning respect, older adults learning how to breathe and focus. He noticed something beautiful. No one was trying to be better than the others. No one was performing, for cameras or chasing belts. They were just trying to grow, one lesson at a time. One day, Ayaka handed him a uniform and said, "If your body wants to move, let it." Liam stepped onto the mat for the first time since the incident. He bowed, not just to the room, but to himself. A quiet apology to the person he used to be, and a promise to try again. The class was basic. He followed quietly, correcting his own form, helping others when asked. Ayaka never introduced him as a black belt. He didn't want her to. For now, he was just a student. After class, a young boy named Ezra asked him, "Were you always good at this?" Liam smiled. "No, I used to fall a lot," the boy laughed. "Me too. My front kick is like a potato." Liam laughed for the first time in days. As time passed, he started helping more during the classes. He didn't teach, but he assisted. He held pads, showed footwork, and offered tips. The students liked him. They didn't know his past. They only knew he was kind and helpful. One evening, Ayaka sat beside him after class. "Do you know why I asked you to help?" she asked. "Because I needed it?" Liam guessed. She shook her head. "Because they needed you." Liam was confused. "But they don't know who I am." "They don't need to," she said gently. "They don't need to see the mistake. They just need to see your effort. That's what matters. What you do after the fall." That night, Liam thought long and hard. He realized that maybe his biggest problem wasn't what he had done, but how he had let it define him. He had been walking around thinking he was broken, like he didn't deserve another chance. But here, in this small studio, he had been treated like a person. Not a headline, not a joke. A person who could still grow. He finally called his sister. They talked for an hour. She cried a little. He cried more. He called his parents. His mother said, "We're not angry. We just want you to come home." He called his assistant instructor, who told him that many students had asked about him. Some wanted to quit when they heard he wasn't returning. "Come back," his assistant said, "even if just to speak with them." Liam thought about it for a day. Then he made his decision. A week later, he traveled back to Birmingham. When he entered his old dojo, the students were finishing warm-ups. They stopped when they saw him. The room went silent. Liam walked to the front and bowed. "I made a mistake," he said. "And I'm sorry. Not just because of what happened, but because I forgot what I was supposed to represent." He looked around the room, at the kids, the teenagers, the adults. A black belt doesn't mean you're perfect. It means you're always learning. I forgot that. I thought I had to be strong all the time. But strength isn't about kicks or belts. It's about being honest, about getting back up. He paused, breathing in slowly. "I don't expect you to forget what happened. I just hope you remember what I do next." A few students clapped. Then more. Then all. After class, some came to hug him. One little girl said, "We missed you, Sensei." That night, Liam stood alone in the empty dojo. He placed his black belt in front of him and bowed deeply, not to the belt, but to the lesson. He was not broken. He was beginning again. Sure. Here is part 4 of the story explained in approximately 2,500 words, using simple, interesting English, as you asked, without any headings, just pure storytelling. After returning to his hometown and speaking to his students, Liam felt a little lighter. For the first time in weeks, he didn't feel like he was running from something. He didn't feel like a criminal anymore. He was still the man who had made a huge mistake, yes, but now he was also someone who was trying to fix it. Slowly, carefully, step by step. His dojo board had allowed him to return, but only under one condition. He couldn't immediately take full control as head instructor. He would have to work alongside his assistant, share responsibilities, and prove that he still held the values that a true martial artist should live by. Liam accepted this without any argument. He didn't want to be in charge right away. He didn't want the spotlight. What he wanted now was something much simpler, a chance to rebuild. The students were kind to him. Some were nervous at first, unsure how to act around their former teacher who had been on the news. But as the days passed, they saw that Liam was serious about being better. He arrived early. He helped clean the mats. He greeted every student by name. And when he taught, he focused more on discipline, patience, and control than ever before. One day during a sparring session, a young student named Rico lost his temper. He missed a punch and shouted angrily, blaming his partner. Everyone went, "Quiet!" Instead of scolding him loudly, Liam walked over, placed a hand on Rico's shoulder, and sat down beside him on the mat. "Do you know what happens when we let anger control us?" he asked quietly. Rico shook his head. "We forget who we are," Liam said. Rico looked up at him. "Is that what happened to you, Sensei?" Liam didn't hesitate. "Yes." And just like that, the lesson became real. From then on, Liam began using his own story, his mistake in London, not as something to hide, but as something to teach from. He never made excuses for what he did. He didn't try to make it sound less serious. But he showed his students that even black belts can fall, and more importantly, that they can rise again. One weekend, Liam was invited to speak at a regional martial arts seminar. At first, he didn't want to go. He felt nervous. What if people still judged him? What if they whispered behind his back? But his assistant instructor encouraged him. "Go not as a champion," he said. "Go as a man who learned something most of us never do." So Liam agreed. At the seminar, dozens of instructors and students from across the country were present. Some knew his story. Others had just heard pieces of it. When he walked into the hall, a few people stared. Some nodded politely. Others looked unsure. He stepped onto the mat and began his session, not with high kicks or sharp movements, but with a simple bow and a story. "I want to talk to you about the moment I forgot who I was," he began. He told them everything. About the trip to London, about the kick, about the arrest, the courtroom, the punishment, the shame, and then the return. For half an hour he spoke from the heart. He didn't hide his tears. He didn't cover up his failure. And when he finished, the room was silent. Then someone clapped, then another, and then the whole room stood and applauded. That night, Liam sat alone in the changing room. He felt different. Not proud, exactly, but peaceful. He had spoken his truth, and the world hadn't ended. People had listened. Some even thanked him for being brave enough to admit his flaws. From that point on, Liam's journey truly began to shift. He started receiving emails and messages from martial arts students across the country. Some said they had lost motivation in their training and his story helped them return. Others said they had made mistakes of their own and felt inspired to fix them. One young woman wrote, "I thought once I failed, it was over. But now I know I can still move forward." Liam replied to each message personally. It became part of his new mission, not just to teach punches and kicks, but to help people find balance, humility, and growth. One day, he got a message from someone unexpected. It was from a guard, an actual royal guard from London. Not the one Liam had kicked, but someone who had witnessed the event and followed the news. The message read, "I saw what happened that day. I was there, and I've seen what you've done since. You messed up, but you owned it. That takes guts. Respect." Liam read the message 3 times. He didn't know what to say. In the end, he replied with a simple, "Thank you. I promise I'll spend the rest of my life proving I learned from it." With time, Liam's dojo grew again. New students joined. Parents who had once been doubtful started to trust him once more. His assistant instructor, seeing Liam's growth, stepped back and gave him more space to lead. But Liam didn't return to the old way of doing things. He changed everything. He added a weekly class called The Inner Belt, where students sat in a circle and talked about real-life challenges: fear, anger, jealousy, sadness. No punching, no kicking, just words. He brought in guest speakers, former athletes, teachers, even a therapist, to talk about emotions and mental strength. He wanted to teach what he had once ignored: the importance of inner control. One evening after class, a parent waited to speak with him. Her son Max had been struggling in school, often acting out and getting into trouble. "I want to thank you," the mother said. "Max has changed. He says you taught him how to pause before he reacts. You taught him to think." Liam smiled, touched deeply. Not because of praise, but because that was exactly what he had needed too. Weeks turned to months. Liam still remembered that day in London. He still felt the shame sometimes, especially when the old video would pop up again online. But it no longer controlled him. It was part of his story, but it didn't define him. Then came an unexpected invitation. A charity event for veterans was being planned near London. The event included a self-defense demonstration and a panel on discipline and leadership. They wanted Liam to be part of it. At first, he wasn't sure. London brought back too many memories. But after a long walk and a quiet conversation with Ayaka, the kind dojo master he had met while hiding, he agreed. "You've changed," she said. "It's time to go back and show the world." When he arrived at the event, some people recognized him. He could feel their eyes. But this time, he didn't shrink. He stood tall, respectful, and calm. He gave a small speech before the demonstration. "I once used my skills without thinking. That was my lowest moment. Today, I use them with full awareness, and that is my highest." People clapped. Not loudly, but meaningfully. Later, during a break, a young man came up to him. "You're the guy from the guard video, right?" Liam nodded. "I thought you were just some fool. But now I see, maybe you're the real thing." Liam smiled. "I'm still learning." That night he stood outside and looked up at the stars, not far from the palace gates where everything had gone wrong. He didn't go near. He didn't need to. He just stood there in the cool air, breathing slowly, thinking quietly. A guard stood in the distance, stiff and silent. Liam bowed deeply toward him, though the guard didn't see. It was not a bow of apology. It was a bow of respect for the rules he had once broken, for the people he had once disrespected, and for the man he was becoming now. And with that quiet moment under the London sky, Liam took another step forward. Not as the black belt who kicked a royal guard, but as the black belt who chose to grow. 1 year had passed since the moment that had changed Liam Reynolds' life. The video was still out there, of course. Sometimes it came back online, getting shared again with jokes or judgment. But people had mostly moved on. And so had Liam. His dojo was now stronger than ever, not just in numbers, but in purpose. The students didn't just come to learn how to fight. They came to learn how to live. Liam had created a space where discipline, growth, and honesty were just as important as punches and kicks. But inside, Liam still carried one last weight, something unfinished. He had apologized to his students. He had repaired his dojo. He had found peace within himself. But he had never faced the one person who had stood in front of him that day, the royal guard he had kicked. He had tried many times to find him. He had searched online, asked people quietly, even emailed the royal security office. But there was no reply. No name was ever released, not to protect Liam, but to protect the guard. The man remained anonymous, a silent figure in Liam's memory. Until one morning, Liam got an envelope. There was no return address, just his name and dojo address on the front. Inside was a single note. "I heard you're looking for me. I'm not angry. I'll be at Hyde Park Saturday, 3 p.m. Come alone, no cameras, no noise, just a conversation. J." Liam sat frozen for a moment. Then he read it again. And again. This was it. The moment he hadn't expected to ever get. All week he couldn't stop thinking about it. What would he say? Would he apologize? Would the guard shout at him? Ignore him? Punch him back? When Saturday came, he left early. He wore plain clothes, jeans and a hoodie, and carried nothing but the note in his pocket. He took a train into London, headphones in but no music playing. His heart thudded softly the whole time. At 2:55 p.m. he stood at the edge of Hyde Park, near the big fountain. Tourists walked by, couples laughed, children played. He scanned the area and spotted a man sitting on a wooden bench nearby, facing the lake. Tall, strong build, close-cut hair, wearing a gray jacket and black boots, just like any other Londoner, except Liam knew it was him. He walked over slowly, quietly. The man didn't turn. "You're late," the man said with a small smile, checking his watch. "By 2 minutes." "Sorry," Liam replied. "No need," the man said, still looking out at the water. "You came. That matters more." Liam sat beside him. For a moment, neither spoke. The air was still, cool, peaceful. Then Liam took a breath. "I don't know how to start," he said. "You just did." Liam looked down at his hands. "I was stupid that day. I thought I was being funny. I didn't think of you as a person. I just saw a challenge." "I know," the man said. "I'm sorry," Liam said. "Truly. Not just because it hurt my life, but because it could have hurt yours. You didn't deserve that." The man nodded slowly. "No, I didn't, but I've seen worse." Now he turned to look at Liam properly for the first time. His face was calm, stern, but not cold. "I've watched everything you did since," the man said. I kept quiet, but I paid attention. The speeches, the classes, the way you owned it all. You didn't try to hide. I respect that. Liam felt a wave of relief, but also curiosity. Why didn't you say anything earlier? The man shrugged. Wasn't my job to fix you? You had to do that yourself. Liam nodded, understanding. The man continued. You know, that day, when your foot hit me, my body didn't move. But inside I wanted to rip your head off. Liam gave a nervous laugh. I believe it. But I didn't, the guard said. Because I had a job. I had training. And that job wasn't about ego. It was about discipline. That's the part you forgot. Liam looked away, ashamed. Yeah, I did. You had power, the guard said. But no control. That's a dangerous mix. Liam didn't defend himself. He simply nodded. Then the guard's voice softened. But look at you now. You've got control. Maybe more than before. They sat in silence again, watching ducks swim across the lake. After a while, the guard said, So what now? You want forgiveness? Liam shook his head. No, not unless you want to give it. I came because I needed to see you as a human being, not as a symbol I once mocked. The man nodded. Well, I am a human being. And I forgive you. Liam's eyes burned slightly. He blinked a few times and whispered, Thank you. The guard stood. That's all I needed to say. We're done. Liam stood too. Can I ask your name? The man smiled. No, you already gave me one. He nodded toward the bench and walked away without another word. Liam stood there still, heart full of something he hadn't felt in a long time. Complete closure. Back at his dojo, things kept moving. He returned to teaching with more calm, more focus. Students noticed. His kicks were sharper but quieter. His words fewer but stronger. People in the martial arts world started to speak of him differently. Not as the guy who kicked a guard, but as the guy who came back. Liam was later asked to write a book. He wasn't sure at first, but with encouragement from friends, family, and students, he agreed. The book wasn't about techniques or flashy stories. It was about failure, honesty, and healing. The title was simple, Still Standing. It became a bestseller, not just among martial artists, but among people from all walks of life. Athletes, teachers, teenagers, veterans, people who had fallen, people trying to stand again. One of the final chapters read, I once thought being a black belt meant being perfect. Now I know it means learning after you break. I kicked a royal guard in the face, and I thought my life was over. But the truth is, it had only just begun. In the final pages, he thanked someone anonymously. To the man in the gray coat, thank you for teaching me the lesson my training never did. Years passed. Liam continued teaching, learning and growing. His dojo expanded, his seminars were packed. He trained new instructors, helped troubled teens, and even worked with prison programs to teach discipline through martial arts. He never kicked another guard. He never lost control again. But sometimes, when he visited London, he would stop by Hyde Park, sit on the same bench, watch the water. Not out of guilt, but as a reminder. That one kick didn't define him. But the choices he made after it? They did. And that, finally, was enough.